Good afternoon, everybody. Dave Neal here, host of the Rush Hour podcast. On this Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, here are all the stories for your Rush Hour ride home. We're going to open up with a wildfire update. A new fire raging in Southern California. I'll let you know what you need to know about evacuations. And Ray Cyrus is receiving criticism after his terrible performance at the inauguration. And now one of his sons is actually saying publicly that his dad needs help. Speaking of needing help, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are in hot water as they battle Justin Baldoni, in part losing the public relations case. A lawyer on TikTok shares why he thinks Blake and Ryan are in hot water. Who's not in hot water? Prince Harry. He just had a great victory against a tabloid who, I guess the tabloid was accused of hacking into his phone and sharing private information. Well, now the tabloid has to apologize, and they have settled. I'll share that story. And a pardoner, a January 6th pardoner, has been rearrested. All right, just a turnstile right back into the old slammer. I love that story, plus some more thoughts on the bishop. Some are trying to get deported. That's right, an American bishop. Some are saying kick them out of the country. That's a crazy story. And I've got all those stories and a TikTok update and more coming up next on The Rush. You know, just as Southern California was getting a hold of the wildfire situation, multiple new fires have broken out. This one this morning in Camarillo, this new fire they're calling the Laguna Fire, and it's a medium brush with a rapid rate of spread. Watch this.
You said it started out when they first arrived out here on scene. They were calling this 2 acres, and the reason why they're calling it Laguna Fire is because of the name of the road. It's very, very close to the Channel Islands school area right over here. But you can take a look at what is burning and how that wind is really affecting these flames. You've got a huge bulk of fire down there. You've got plenty of firefighters, 2 firefighting helicopters. Both of them are from the Ventura County area.
All right, so let's just hope that they can take control of that. I mean, and even yesterday, they were sharing this devastating fire that's now coming up, the Hughes fire. It's just absolutely wild. They're getting ready for it. Inmates from Santa Cruz are redirecting the Hughes fire in hopes of protecting nearby homes. So yeah, there's a lot of a lot they're still working with, and of course, they're already thin on supplies, and let's just hope that the winds die down and they can get a hold of it. All right, this is a sad story here. I don't really know all the details, but I'm going to share. Ray Cyrus's son says, "You're not healthy, Dad," and gives him a public post. So this is this was the clip. We shared this yesterday. Just, hey, Billy Ray sucks, kind of clip, not realizing he's going through something. But here he is at the inauguration event.
Don't take my horse to the old town road. I go ride till I can't no more.
All right, so he looks like a sort of combination between Steven Tyler and Pirates of the Caribbean's Johnny Depp. I mean, it's looking pretty bad. Either way, this is so sad when you see the photo they use here, but this is Billy Ray's oldest son. He said, "Since my earliest memories, all I can remember is being obsessed with you and thinking you were the coolest person ever. I wanted to be just like you. The day you adopted me was the happiest day of my life. Sadly, the man that I wanted so desperately to be just like, I barely recognize now. It seems this world has beaten you down, and it's become obvious to everyone but you. You may be upset with me for posting this, but I really could care less at this point. Me and the girls have been genuinely worried about you for years." So he goes on to say he's been sober and feeling great, Trace has, and that whatever he's going through, he can, they're here to help him. And look, I understand. I mean, sometimes it takes a little public plea to stop the spiral. So if anyone out there is going through tough times, addiction, just start talking to somebody about it, and you'd be surprised how many avenues of support might exist. All right, CNBC's Andrew Sorkin explains that they actually haven't seen any evidence that TikTok is a national security threat. Here's the update. This is what they had to say.
Congressman, I'm so glad to hear you say this, because I've been making this argument for a very long time that we haven't actually seen real evidence. Does that mean that the American public and the Supreme Court has been lied to?
Well, look, Andrew, we have a history in this country with national security of times of overreach. We had it with FDR, with the Japanese internment camp. We had it during communism with McCarthyism. And my view is that this was a collective march of understandable fear with the Chinese Communist Party. But we just passed a ban without really thinking of the ramifications of 170 million Americans. And there were narrower ways to do this.
So there it is. I mean, look, would you be surprised if I told you a dozen or however many Supreme Court justices there are, 9, what is it, that they don't know a thing about TikTok? A lot of them are very old, and it's probably easy to be sold on fear when it's not explained properly. Maybe they do need to look more into the algorithm, but if no evidence has showed up yet, like, what are you supposed to do? Just make decisions based on fear? You know? I mean, and I mean, I don't know what else to say other than, like, go find the evidence if it's bad for you. All right, here is a TikTok lawyer called Bowtie Lawyer explaining why he thinks Justin Baldoni's on the winning side of the Lively versus Baldoni lawsuits. Have a listen to this.
As a lawyer who spent a lot of time studying the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively lawsuits, I can tell you that in my professional opinion, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are in a lot of trouble. Oftentimes, you can't tell who's going to win a lawsuit by the papers. The papers are usually very vague, and who's going to win the case depends on who the jury believes, because it's a lot of he said, she said, and it depends on credibility. However, here in this case, Justin Baldoni has filed a 180-page lawsuit that includes dozens, if not hundreds, of texts.
Yeah, we've read all that. So yeah, that is true. What's made it interesting is that this case involves a lot of metadata, a lot of business going back and forth from text to emails and all of that. I want to jump ahead to the end of this TikTok here, where he kind of explains a little bit more clearly why this is just not going to go well for Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively.
I think Blake and Ryan have painted themselves into a corner. They sued him, and now he's countersued, and it appears he has a much stronger claim than they have, and they have money. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I mean, this lawyer doesn't exactly tell us why he believes Justin has a stronger claim. But again, if Justin's the one suing for defamation, it could be that he loses his lawsuit and she loses her lawsuit. So they could both claim winning and losing at the same time, which doesn't help either one of them in the PR game. So I still think they're better off settling this. And the question is, it's like, who's going to pay who? And if, say, Blake says, you know what, I'll pay $10 million, make this go away, let's never mention each other's names again, the information's still going to leak. Like, at this point, settling might be too little too late. I don't know. Here is an interesting TikToker that we like here called Shannon Hill News. And she was actually explaining how Blake and Ryan Reynolds first started dating and how that might factor into this both business and possibly personal lawsuit.
There is a blooper that was just released from It Ends With Us, and it is making its rounds, and you'll see where Blake sort of leaves her hands on Justin's chest. There's a lot of friendly chemistry. Justin is joking around. I want to know what you guys think.
And my nose is so big.
I was hoping that we could address this. It's not too late. Just gotta shut down. We gotta call an insurance month and just deal with that. And then,
Cut.
Just kidding.
No, it's true.
So it's at that moment after he yells cut where she still says just kidding. She laughs and pats him on the chest. And look, that doesn't mean he didn't cross the line. We discussed this for over 40 minutes on today's YouTube channel, so you can go check out my coverage over there. This is an ultimate, like, he said, she said. If she says she feels weird, okay, but like, what's the backstory of this scene, and like, how much permission did they have to be touching each other?
That's why we hired Jenny Slate too. Our noses loose.
If there wasn't several lawsuits going back and forth, I would say that these two were buddies on set and had a really natural chemistry between each other.
What's so interesting as we cover this is everyone's got a different opinion. Everyone sees it differently. And that's fine too. And it's going to come down, if they go to a jury, how are they going to make a jury feel? And will either side be able to prove their point in front of that kind of audience? We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, Blake Lively's side has said, we want a gag order, and we're waiting to hear back on what the judge says about that. Will that be issued? All right, let's move it on. So anyway, Shannon Hill News, they got tons of updates here. I didn't play the clip I was actually planning on playing. Oh, here it is. This is the clip where Blake and Ryan first met, and there are rumors that they might have cheated on their respective partners, and this is how their relationship started.
When Blake and Ryan talk about how they got together and then eventually fell in love, it is a very interesting timeline and a little different than what you guys are telling me. In 2010, Blake and Ryan started filming for Green Lantern, and they seemed to get along really well on set and in the PR interviews post-movie.
Hard not to love the movie because you guys are so beautiful to watch that I was just like,
Well, hello.
So at that point, I guess it wasn't known that they were together, or maybe they weren't. Now, you start having the conversation. Was there emotional cheating? Was there physical cheating? Well, Ryan Reynolds was married to Scarlett Johansson. There's been no outward mention of whether or not there was cheating. But you could imagine if you find one partner on a movie set, maybe you get jealous of your partner knowing how close you can get in the movies and how showmances work. So I'm sure that makes them guarded when they do a movie like It Ends With Us, where there's a lot of intimacy. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up on the Blake Lively coverage. Coming up next, real royalty, Prince Harry. Sadly, no one's had more of a struggle, a war, you might say, with the tabloids as Prince Harry has. He lost his mom because of the tabloids, right? She died in a car accident trying to evade the paparazzi. And now we've got Prince Harry settling a lawsuit with British tabloids. He gets a full apology.
We've got some breaking news from overseas now. Prince Harry has reached a last-minute deal with Rupert Murdoch's British newspaper group to settle his claims of unlawful information gathering. News group newspapers offered Harry a full apology for hacking his cell phone for surveillance and misuse of private information. The publisher will also pay Harry an undisclosed amount of money. The settlement brings the case to an abrupt end, and it comes just days before the trial was set to begin.
You know what, Prince Harry? I'm on your side. F those guys. F them. You don't owe them anything, and good for you for not letting them push you around. Absolutely love that story. All right, and speaking of not letting people push you around, Joe Burrow, quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, had his home broken into, and it looks like they may have caught the suspects wearing some of Joe Burrow's clothes. Listen to this story from Good Morning America.
This morning, watch the newly released body camera footage showing the moment police zeroed in on the four men suspected of burglarizing NFL superstar Joe Burrow's home.
How you guys doing?
On January 10th, an Ohio State highway patrolman had witnessed a group of men carrying what looked like suspicious luggage to a vehicle from a hotel.
Do you guys have your IDs with you?
When the officer pulled over the men, four Chilean nationals, three of them allegedly presented fake IDs. All four men are in the United States illegally, according to court records.
Where are you guys headed to today, sir? Orlando? Wrong way. Florida's that way.
The man in the front passenger seat wearing a Cincinnati Bengals beanie, the team Burrow plays for.
So they end up going through the trunk, right? And they start finding what they believe might be Joe Burrow's stuff. They find evidence in the dash of criminal enterprise paraphernalia, how to break open things. And they also found a Louis Vuitton bag and an LSU shirt, which would have been Joe Burrow's. So, it's, first of all, it's just sad that this crime's happening, but to be able to kind of catch them in this way. And again, it might be some crazy coincidence, but as of right now, these might be the guys that have been stealing from all these different celebrity football players. Wild stuff. Well, I guess this is what Doge is up to, the Department of Government Efficiency. They're planning on canceling the penny. Have a listen to this.
For the penny coin. The billionaire's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, says that nixing the U.S. penny production could trim federal spending. So how? Listen to this. In a post on Tuesday on X, Musk's DOGE wrote that the U.S. spends about 3 cents to mint each 1 cent penny. So as he also said that penny production costs U.S. taxpayers more than $179 million. What?
Listen. I actually can't argue with the math on this one. Like, do we need more pennies? What do you use a penny for? I mean, has anyone used a penny in the last decade? Like what? I don't know. I mean, we're like kind of like a cashless system. I still like a good quarter, but even a nickel. Who's using a nickel?
Just in 2023. So it's unclear what's going to happen next. Doge's role in the Trump administration, of course, is to reduce wasteful spending and eliminate unnecessary regulations. So we should also know that the penny has survived decades of people coming after it. Lincoln, he's not backing down for nobody. They even tried to get rid of the penny in 2015 under Obama. That didn't happen.
So it didn't happen. I don't know. I mean, look, you're not going to round up all the pennies. It could make pennies more valuable if you stop printing them. So hold on to your pennies out there, folks. We'll have to see. I mean, does anyone else go to Coinstar? I like to go to Coinstar every once in a while and just dump everything I found in the couch and see what they'll give me. All right. January 6th defendant rearrested on weapons charges a day after being pardoned. Boy, yeah. Daniel Charles Ball was accused of throwing an explosive device at law enforcement officers at the Capitol. Faces separate weapons charges in Florida. So that's it. He gets out a couple days later. He's got a rifle. You got to go. You're going right back. So either way, he's in the system, folks. And here's a interesting podcast clip from Interfaith Alliance. Reverend Ray Rauschenbusch thanks Bishop Marion Budde for inspiring the nation and explains an aspect of the sermon that he found particularly shocking: to see someone actually preaching the gospel to President Donald Trump. This is interesting stuff. People are kind of mixed on their feelings about this. I mean, you guys know my feelings that the bishop felt like she had a chance to talk directly to the president of the United States. Other people are saying, get your politics out of the church. But church is inherently political in the sense that you're trying to help people, and politics is usually about, providing government to help the people. So church kind of mixes, they mix in with it, right? Now, of course, I don't think a priest should endorse a political leader, because then you have that conflict of interest. But to merely get up there in front of the president and say, have grace for these people, knowing full well these people are, under fire. Have a listen to this Reverend Paul Rauschenbusch.
Striking to me about that moment was kind of how shocked Trump looked as someone was actually preaching the gospel to him. He had been around so many sycophants that were talking about, how God had anointed him for this hour, that he maybe just didn't realize that there's a whole Christianity out there that actually is inviting a different kind of vision than the one he and his friends who are Christian nationalists, who are about power and about exerting power over others. And so I just want to take a moment and thank Bishop Budde, who's been on this show, who is, by the way, not a radical. And when she was on the show, she was talking about, I'm not a radical. I'm just trying to say the thing that I believe is true. And so she was following her example of the gospel. And so when she said those things, she had every right to say those things. They were in, her church, and she was preaching the gospel. And I just, it's amazing to hear some of the comments, like that garbage, that political garbage that she was talking about. That was just straight up biblical. And she said it in a gentle way and in an invitational way, like let's walk together with our God, but let's be merciful to the people who are most vulnerable and scared in this moment.
Right. That's why I felt so bad after watching the feedback, because I was saying, wow, if a lot of MAGA are Christian, a good amount. We live in a country it's the majority religion in our country, right? And so, yet in Christianity, there's different sects, right? There's Catholics, there's Protestants, and there's evangelicals, and it appears as though the sort of MAGA evangelical, it might not be all evangelical, but the MAGA evangelical is like, they're not playing with that. And I've had this conversation with a bunch of people, like through my own religious upbringing, which is like, wouldn't Jesus have wanted to have these conversations? Here we have MAGA Christians attacking the bishop for asking Trump to be like Jesus. This is from the Social Contract, Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh has been a big sort of I don't know, a guy speaking out about Trump, but just very specifically when it comes to this bishop, I think even he, like the rest of us, are surprised at the backlash.
She asked the president of the United States to be like Jesus. And because of that, Christians are attacking her. Trump supporters who call themselves Christian are attacking this bishop for asking the president of the United States to be like Jesus, to be merciful, to be compassionate as you carry out your policies. She didn't say don't deport anybody.
Yeah.
And Christians are attacking her. Christians are attacking her. She said nothing about the border. She said nothing about immigration policy. She did not stand in front of the president of the United States and say, damn it, we should have an open border. People who are in this country illegally should have the same rights as people who are here legally. There should be no difference. She didn't say any of that.
That's right. Right. She just said, have mercy, have compassion. And her point was responded to loud and clear, which is there is no time for mercy and compassion when you have fear. You saw the way J.D. Vance looked at his wife, side-eyeing, rolling his eyes, and God bless his wife for just maintaining eye contact with the bishop. That was a moment to just accept what the bishop was saying and say, thank you for that feedback, really. Thank you for that consideration. And then you move on. But instead, demanding an apology, it just shows the fragile ego. All right, a couple more stories to get to. We'll be right back. All right, I'll do two more clips. You know, I like to save the politics for the end in case you don't want it. I understand the appetite out there, but it's an interesting time. So I'll share what the bishop had to say in response to people wishing death upon her, including a congressman saying she should be deported. And then after this, we'll share President Trump's updates on possible tariffs on foreign products, which will mean a lot to us, not just in the fragile balance of the economy, but also what's it going to do to the cost of goods, groceries, and things like that. First, here's MSNBC, and this is Reverend Marianne Budde here giving her response to all of the backlash.
Get that nasty gram from the president in the middle of the night in which he did insult you and demand an apology. Yeah. And I know I've seen remarks that you made today that you've received a lot of not just invective, but threats, including death threats over the course of today since that happened. And I would just ask if you wanted to respond either to the president or to the people who have wished you ill in response to this.
Well, I've had people wish me dead. I'm not sure they've threatened to kill me, but they seem to be pleased if I met my eternal destiny sooner rather than later. And
Boy, she's going to be on SNL this week, the way she's going. She's a character. This bishop is actually really funny.
I would simply say I was trying actually to encourage a different kind of conversation that you can certainly disagree with me. You can disagree what I've said or did. But could we as Americans and fellow children of God speak to one another with respect? I would offer the same to you. I would listen to your views and I would honor them, but we don't have to go to the highest extremes of contempt when we are in a position of disagreement. And I think if we could get that back as a country, we would go a long way in being able to work together to address the many problems that we face.
Remember when Trump had a spiritual leader? Like, how brave would it be if Trump responded to, to that speech, and rather than demand an apology, what if he invited her to the White House to continue to have conversations about bringing a little bit of mercy back to the plan of securing the border? And there is a way to do that, right? There is a way to do that. Now, sadly, a thing that this administration is being accused of is actually wanting there to be a press opportunity. So it was leaked that the ICE raids are going to start happening literally this week in Chicago. And because of that leak, a lot of media was flooding to Chicago so that they could be there to get the photos of people getting pulled out of classrooms and literally out of the parking lots of Home Depot and all the places that they're going to try to find migrants. Well, that sinister photo op would be used to try to deter people from coming here, saying, look, you're going to get ripped out of your homes. Don't come here. And it's like, while that strategy may be effective, what's the collateral damage? What is the collateral damage to the fabric of our country? And that's the thing that's going to be hard to measure, is who do we want to be as a country? Is the bottom dollar making sure we do every strategy under the sun to prevent people from getting into this country? I don't believe so. I think there should be a path to entry that we can improve on, but at the same time, bring that humanity back. Her point was proven that mercy no longer exists with some. Here's Trump discussing the tariffs that they might put on foreign products.
My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt.
Now, any economist could look at that and go, well, when you tariff products coming in, like blanket tariffs, they're going to have to raise the price of those goods. So people are just not going to buy them, maybe, or the consumer's going to get hit with that quote unquote inflation. It might not be inflation in the way that it's a different type of inflation, really. If the price of these goods goes up, either way, if we don't have the capability to make those products in the U.S., if there's no U.S. alternative, that's a problem. Now, if there's a U.S. alternative, I say, sure, consider tariffs on foreign goods so we buy American, buy USA, absolutely. But that's a very, very slow-moving storm that has to be re-adverted, right? And that just doesn't happen overnight with a tariff. All right, so we'll have to see how it all goes. I mean, I don't mean to be bleak in any way. I'm just trying to be honest with you. We're going to continue to share what's happening out there and try to bring the important stories. Try to lay off the culture war, but have a conversation that involves some love, really, right? Because we live in a time where I think we need that more than anything. All right, I'll be back in the morning tomorrow for your morning rush. We'll have a fun day tomorrow. But in the meantime, I hope you guys get home safely. It was nice chatting with you. I'll see you then. I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.